Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, let's talk about Beto O'Rourke officially announced that he is running for president. Of course, he told a local station last night in El Paso that he was jumping into the race. He unveiled a 3.5-minute video today. He's raised a ton of money from small donors. Of course, when he ran against Senator Ted Cruz, raising some $80 million. Again, so he released his video announcement. Here's part of that announcement that he dropped on social media.
We can listen to and lift up rural America. We can work on real justice reform and confront the hard truths of slavery and segregation and suppression in these United States of America. Over the coming days, I'm going to travel this country and listen to those who I seek to serve, to understand from your perspective how we can best meet these challenges.
So here's a question that needs to be actually asked and also answered. National media has spent tons of time talking about Beto O'Rourke running for president. Huge cover story that dropped this week in Vanity Fair of Beto O'Rourke in jeans on a road with a dog in the photo, sitting next to a truck in Texas. But he lost by 3 points to Ted Cruz, who was hated by not only Democrats, but lots of Republicans hated Ted Cruz. But the interesting thing is that Andrew Gillum, who ran for governor of Florida, and Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor of Georgia, who both lost, they actually lost by less than 1%. So the question is, where's the media hype and the party enthusiasm for those two? Greg, I'll start with you.
Very quickly, I think Beto O'Rourke, for all his youth and all his charisma, is about 10 years late. He's white Obama. If this were 2007, 2008, he'd be the one to mug, he'd probably be the one to mug Hillary Clinton on the way to the nomination. But the field is too crowded now. The Democrats are not going to put two white men on the ticket. He's probably auditioning for the vice president role, and they're not going to be able to do that. Now, he is a wild card. I mean, after all, his mother is the stepdaughter of former Secretary of the Navy under John Kennedy, and his pops was a Democrat his whole life till he switched to the Republican Party to try to continue to win elections. He's been all over the map ideologically, although he votes generally center-left, mostly more left than center. But I don't see how O'Rourke is going to move forward. Finally, I would say this. Two people who should be governor were it not for voter theft in Florida and Georgia, Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams, probably should bide their time right now. As far as I'm concerned, the rising star in the Democratic Party, if you talk about electoral politics, is probably Stacey Abrams. And Stacey Abrams has all the cards, and she just needs to figure out what she wants to do next. And Andrew Gillum or Stacey Abrams one day may be sitting in the White House, but I think timing just is not going to work out for Mr. O'Rourke.
Lauren, if they talk about Beto O'Rourke raising $80 million and how he is so charismatic, but even when you look at that Vanity Fair article, when you look at these other pieces, he's offered no real reason why he wants to run for president. Nancy Pelosi was asked a question about major legislation that he passed as a member of Congress. Nobody could come up with that. And so the question is, why Beto?
Because donors and media love him, and there's always a media darling. You know, John Edwards was a media darling, and Barack Obama was a media darling. And
so was John McCain.
If you're somebody that is well-liked by the press and you speak well and move your hands a lot, then you get this sort of Vanity Fair treatment. If I was Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams, I'd announce tomorrow. Because really, if this could happen, then like anything is sort of possible, right? I mean, a guy that loses to Ted Cruz, albeit in a very southern state, but then again, Georgia and Florida, no picnic, and Stacey got much closer than Beto did to winning. So my thing is, I mean, if we're going to do media darling, we're going to do this by media darling, then either of them could actually announce. I mean, the other thing about Beto O'Rourke, though, too, is that, and I don't know how he's going to get by Kamala Harris, because if you do charisma and you do substance, you're going to come up with Kamala Harris or Cory Booker a lot quicker than you come up with him. And frankly, Kamala Harris was an AG and a U.S. Senator, and he was a House member. So I don't know how you, if you do by experience and substance, issue by issue, on the debate stage, I don't know how he's going to out-talk some of the other people on that stage.
Demetrius, you were laughing, but the reality is Senator John McCain was a media darling. That whole Maverick deal, how even his own people, I mean, you can talk to any of them, how he would come back and he would talk to the press. He would always be with them. And so, yes, and if you don't think John McCain was a media darling, who spent more time on Sunday morning shows than Senator John McCain? So, yeah, Senator John McCain was a media darling when he ran for president. Yes.
Being accessible to the media and being a media darling is two separate things. I will argue that Senator McCain wasn't really a media. He was not really a media darling until he started opposing Donald Trump.
Got it.
I would echo the comments of Greg in terms of Beto O'Rourke. Now, here's the reason why I think he'll probably be one of the few last candidates standing. He's likable. He has vigor. He has charisma. Now, he does lack the policy chops. He does, as you had aforementioned, he does lack legislative victories. But I'm not quite sure, given previous election cycles, if that's really going to matter. The one person that I think is probably a little miffed at him is Senator Bernie Sanders, because I think that Sanders' base and O'Rourke's appeal are going to be to the same demographic. And I think people within that demographic would venture to the younger O'Rourke. But I think it's going to be an uphill battle for him. I think he's auditioning for VP.
Greg, here's one of the things that jumps out, and this is very simple, okay? Prior to running against Ted Cruz, I had no idea who the hell Beto O'Rourke was. I'm a native Texan, okay? I mean, native Texan, born and raised. There were any number of members of the Texas delegation. If you talk about Bill Flores, who's a Republican, if you talk about that crazy nut Louis Gohmert, if you talk about any number of people, I'm being dead serious. Prior to running against Ted Cruz, I had never seen or heard about Beto O'Rourke. I can't recall a single congressional hearing. I can't recall a single news conference. I can't recall a single television appearance. And so I get people are hyped about him coming close to beating Ted Cruz in 2018. But I keep telling people, running for United States Senator is totally different than when you're running for President of the United States.
Sure, and we know the Democratic Party has as much of a gangster mentality as any other large political enterprise. They're not going to let Beto O'Rourke win. He would have to win outright to get that nomination. But of course, he came to prominence in that 1,800 mile road trip he took and streamed live on Facebook with Will Hurd, who was arguably black Republican, of course, from Texas, better known than him. Beto O'Rourke, and I know you're going to cover this story a little bit later about the college admission stuff. Beto O'Rourke is a great example of whiteness. Here's a guy who kicked around, went to Columbia, and graduated with a degree in English, came back home, worked in the family business, and then started his own business in technology, kicked around, worked on some political campaigns, beat a Latino in 80% Hispanic district out there in West Texas in El Paso, and then decided to go and leave his congressional seat after several terms and say, I'm going to run for Senate. Look, man, it don't get no more real in terms of white privilege, white male privilege than Beto O'Rourke. And what we have to face is the fact that the American electorate is very rarely, if ever, focusing on policy.
And the reason, Roland, you hadn't heard of him is because he hadn't done anything. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything in the House. Obviously, he served all of his time in the House in the minority, but you had that criticism a little bit of Barack Obama in terms of substance. Barack Obama, Senator, had actually done a few things and stood up on a few issues like immigration. But we'll see if charisma and just talking a lot on social media can pull it off. We'll see that because Beto O'Rourke is going to be that candidate.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, calling all HBCU alumni, students, and leaders enter the Ford Motor Company HBCU Mobility Challenge and win $25,000 for your school. Building on their long-term support of HBCUs, Ford is looking to improve mobility in HBCU communities through innovative solutions. Now, the winning program will receive a grant of up to $25,000 to implement their proposal. The deadline to apply is March 31st, 2019. Go to FGB.Life, that's FGB.Life, for more information and to apply. Ford goes further in our community. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.